This podcast is brought to you by Contessa Digital.
Or have you ever dealt with someone in your life who lived to put you down? Like they just couldn't wait to find negative things to say about you? I recently had one of those experiences, and I'm kind of glad I did because it led me to think about something that I don't often talk about on this podcast, and that is how to be attractive. I mentioned I believe it was the episode before this one, that I don't spend a lot of time as a dating coach centering men, talking about how to attract men, because I think that discussion, even though it's typically at the forefront of what you see in podcasts and on social media about dating and content, that is secondary. You need to be in love with yourself first. You need to have the boundaries and the standards first. And you need to be clear on what you want. And then once you have those things in place, then dating strategy, being attractive, those things then add on top of a foundation, right? They allow you to attract a partner, yes, but because you have the foundation of knowing who you are, knowing what you want, um, and having those boundaries, you don't just attract anyone, you actually attract men, you attract partners who are aligned with your vision, with your goals. You attract men who treat you well. And that is what we want, right? We don't just want to marry someone for the sake of calling ourselves a missus, right? We want to be married to someone who is our purpose partner, someone who makes us feel good, someone who shares a vision, someone who treats us well, someone who we can create a legacy with. But again, in this case, I want to talk about the comment that this person made and how it led me to these 3 secrets for being more attractive that will help you to better, yes, attract, but also better discern your future partner. So, welcome to Confidently Cherished. My name is Keshia Rice. I am a dating coach and hypnotherapist. I help women break generational patterns that keep them from having healthy relationships, and I help them build and create a mindset that allows them to go out there and confidently find, date, discern the partner who is meant for them. So, back to this woman. I am going to be intentionally vague. I've said this before. Um, it has come to my attention that I have family members, I have friends, I have people who I used to go to church with, who follow me on social media, who listen to my podcast. And because of the way some of these people behave, I try not to give them fuel. So I'm going to be vague about how I know this person. So there's a woman in my life that I don't interact with frequently, but I do interact with her from time to time. And here's the thing. This is actually going to be a quick lesson for you on haters. Because there are a lot of ambitious women in my tribe, right? If you are listening to me, there's a good chance that you have some really big dreams and goals. And oftentimes, this is one of the things that I get asked outside of, questions about dating and relationships is, how are you able to build a brand for yourself online? How are you able to put yourself out there on social media and not worry about what people think? What do you do when you put yourself out there, you start a brand, all of this, and people aren't supportive? And my response to this is that, one, you just have to do it anyways. If you truly believe that you were put on this earth for a purpose, you have to go out there and live that purpose. And you can't be obsessed with what other people think about said purpose, right? You just have to do what you know you were called to do and let everything else fall in place. But also, the whole idea of support. First of all, yes, it is going to be complete strangers who support you before your friends and your family do. And that's just because your friends and your family, anyone in your circle, they have a set idea in their heads of what you are, of who you are. And when you do something different that clashes with that version of who they believe you are, it's going to throw them off balance. And you just kind of have to give them some time to come around to, this is you now, right? But also, one of the things that I have found kind of funny, actually, is there have been people that I know who swear that they think that what I do for a living is dumb, or they don't understand it. And they will say that they don't follow my content, right? They will say that they don't follow me on social media, or that they follow me to be nice to add to my numbers, but they mute my post. Just different things like this. And it will come up that I recognize that they are actively following me and what I do, because they will say something in conversation that I know is something that I only talked about on social media or in my podcast, right? So back to this woman. This woman made a comment about my relationship with my husband. And I have said this before, that when my husband and I met, um, I was out with a friend. I was not planning on going out that night. And because I was not planning on going out that night, my hair was not the best. I was a few days away from a hair appointment, and I was wearing an old sweater that didn't fit very well. I was also wearing old jeans that had like holes and were a little bit ripped, and not like in a fashionable way, not like they were supposed to be that way. These were just old and had been washed away too many times. So I was not looking my hottest at all. Yet my husband still saw something in me, and he still wanted to talk to me, wanted to get to know me. And this woman made the comment about my husband being handsome and all that. And yes, he very much is. Um, and she was shady along the lines of saying that I was lucky and blessed that despite me looking jacked up, he was willing to come talk to me. And, I just kind of laughed this off and moved on. But I started thinking about it, and I realized that when I was single, it was in the times that I was not focused on my looks. It was in the times where I was not so concerned with that I attracted the most men. And I want to make a quick note about beauty. I'm not saying you should, you know, let yourself go. I'm not saying that you should just, screw all of that and, make yourself as ugly as possible or anything like that. Beauty truly does have its place. As a woman, the more I lean into my feminine energy and learning how to live at peace, learning how to be calm, learning how to really love myself, the more I appreciate beauty. And I know that sounds superficial, but it's most definitely true that when I have on certain outfits, when I wear my hair a certain way, when I take the time to put on makeup, I show up differently. I feel different. I feel more confident. And I noticed this especially because the past few months I have been very natural on social media as far as, wearing my naturally curly hair, not wearing makeup and all of that. And, I stand by that. It is what it is. I go back and forth between different hairstyles, whether or not I wear makeup in my videos, all of that. But I have done that on social media and in my day to day life, spent more time on my looks and on what I wear before I leave the house, putting on makeup, things like that. And I feel and see that shift in how, not only how I perceive myself, but as a result, how other people perceive me. And it becomes this loop of confidence. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying don't focus on your looks, right? Um, you should definitely put in the effort to put your best foot forward, to, you know, look, dress, pamper yourself in a way that makes you feel good. And I think this should also just be part of your self care routine and part of your sensuality. One of the things that has helped me grow in learning how to be sensual, learning how to embrace my body, which when you grow up in church, especially a very conservative church, women aren't taught to really embrace their bodies and to love their bodies. We're taught that loving our bodies is almost sinful. So now that I have taken the time to use face creams, taking the time to enjoy hot baths and to really take my time, for example, just putting on lotion, um, doing those things has helped increase my love for myself and my love for my body. And I know it also helps me show up better in my relationship with my husband. So, quick note on don't dismiss beauty, I do think is important. But that being said, the three things that I'm going to tell you about how to be more attractive, and this is how to be more attractive to everyone. So, yes, men, and yes, in the context of romantic relationships, but you'll find that this transfers to all your other relationships as well. But these things have nothing to do with looks. And in fact, they were discovered during periods where, to be honest, I did not feel great about my looks. And because I didn't feel great about my looks, it forced me to kind of um, cultivate an attractive persona without relying on my looks. So the first tip that I'm going to give you is to be clear on what you want and to only accept things that look like that. Too often, we go into relationships and we are out here dating, we're out here trying to find a new circle of friends, we're out here trying to impress a boss at a new job or impress clients on social media so that we can build up our businesses. And we spend all of our time auditioning for other people, right? The truth is, instead of auditioning for other people, you need to be clear on what it is that you want to get out of relationships and see whether or not that person fits or that situation fits for you. Because this even applies to job and career as well. Instead of being so desperate and pick me for a job, you want to make sure that this company and this company's culture fit with what it is that you need. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this in a way for you to be snobby. or anything like that. But when it aligns, it aligns. So when someone or a situation is truly a fit for you, you are also a fit for them. You are also in a line with their wants and needs too, and what they're looking for in a relationship. You two fit each other, or you and that job and you and that company culture fit each other, or you and that client fit each other. It is when you go around trying to force situations that you end up in mismatch energy, right? So when you take the attitude that you are not auditioning for anyone or anything, that you are going to A, show up as yourself, and B, evaluate whether or not this person, this situation fits for you, two things will happen. One is that you will just end up in better relationships and better situations because you have your thinking cap on, you have your discernment cap on. You're not so lost in trying to impress someone else that you stop thinking clearly. But also, when you are focused on whether or not a situation fits you, people see that as confidence. And confidence is incredibly attractive and sexy. So when you are focused on doing what's right for you, it's sad, but we live in a society where people find that to be a very bold move. So if you have the courage to really truly lean in to, is this right for me? People pick up on that energy and they find it so much more attractive. The second thing that you need to do in order to be more attractive is to have your own thing going on. I, again, have seen this in so many situations. So when I think about my career as a journalist, for example, I was always looking into learning new things, picking up new skills, and I also always made it clear that I was willing to take the best opportunity and the best situation for me. So because of that, I didn't have a problem keeping jobs, even if I had a boss who would outwardly downplay my skills. When it was clear that I wasn't afraid to walk, I was always kept around, oftentimes ended up getting a raise, things like that. And, I found this in dating relationships as well, that because I always had my own thing going, even when I was in a relationship with someone, so I had a boyfriend, it was serious, all of that. I made sure I maintained myself. I still had my circle of friends. I still spent time with my friends. I still developed myself and learned hobbies, learned new skills. I was in situations where I dated someone who was willing to take care of me, right? And I didn't necessarily need to work or have a job during that period because I was with someone who was willing to take care of me. But I made sure, I truly believe God bless the girl who has her own. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't accept help. You should always be open to receiving. Receiving is feminine energy. So when people want to do nice things for you, when people want to be there for you, when people want to take care of you, you should definitely accept it. You should allow yourself to receive that, to be in your feminine. And you should also keep in mind, I truly believe that when you are a good person, when you receive with a good heart, when you receive graciously with gratitude, that the people who bless you also get blessed. And I don't want to block other people's blessings. So I have no problem graciously receiving from others. I often get things from family members and friends now. So that's not the issue. The issue is getting to a point where you are so reliant on another person for anything. So, yes, if a friend of mine calls me and says that she's been thinking about me and she wanted to send me some money, then yes, I will take that money. Um, that happened to me a few days ago. So, yes, I will take that money. I will be incredibly grateful for it. I will put it to good use. I will put it on a bill, or I will put it into investing. I don't, that's the other thing. When someone gives me something, I don't take it lightly. I do think about like how I can honor the gift that they gave to me, right? But at the same time, I don't put myself in positions to be completely reliant on other people. And not just when it comes to money. I've seen this happen with women where they get in relationships and now their entire social life is their boyfriend or their husband. So, God forbid that relationship ends, they don't have friends to go back to. Or even, God forbid, their husband or their boyfriend decides to go on like a weekend camping trip with his boys or whatever, they have nothing to do that weekend because he is their entire social circle, their entire life. You have to make sure that you are in a position where you love people, you receive from people, and you are gracious for the way in which people love you, but that you have your own thing going constantly. And the third way to be more attractive is to be well rounded and to also have a little bit of mystery. Now, again, this applies to all relationships, this applies to every situation. You know, I, when I think about career, since we've talked about both love and money throughout this episode, I think about the fact that I used to be a full time journalist. I still freelance. And I remember having a family member voice concerns about me giving up a quote unquote steady job for my business, and also saying that she didn't think that the companies that I worked for freelancing would appreciate the fact that I had jobs on the side, that it would make me less reliable. And I found that it's been the opposite. I get asked about my business all the time, and becoming a business owner has made me more of a leader. It has also helped me to develop better time management skills. It has helped me become a better, more well rounded, happier, more satisfied person. And because of that, I bring all of that. I bring that attitude, that persona, those skills into everything that I do, and it makes everything I do better. But when it comes to being more well rounded, when it comes to being more mysterious, it is so true that familiarity breeds contempt. And particularly in the concept of romantic relationships between, I'm talking particularly a heterosexual relationship between a man and a woman. Men like novelty, they like change. They don't like to constantly be able to predict what you're doing. And I don't mean this in a be wild and be crazy type way, right? But what I do mean is it is so attractive when you are a woman who has multiple passions, when you are a woman who every day with you is not the same because you enjoy different adventures, you enjoy different hobbies, you can talk about different things. So your conversation every day is not the same, right? It is attractive when, back to my second point, when you have your own thing going and you have your own life, that in itself creates a little bit of mystery because you're not hanging on to the other person 24/7. You have your thing going. And believe me, when a man gets to the point where he is serious about you, that he will be wondering, what is it that you're doing when you're not spending this time with him? And that adds to the attraction, that adds to the interest in wanting to know how your day went and wanting to know who you're spending time with and wanting to stay on his toes and wanting to grow himself and build himself so that he can keep up with you. It is when you are building this rich life, this rich persona, that other people want to be in that world. Let's just be honest and be real. Most people are bored. Most people are bored as hell. And it's not their fault. It's the way society is. We have in general just become such a monotonous people. It's not like the caveman days where there was constantly the thrill of the hunt to find food. We have our little office jobs. This may sound random, but I don't know if you've ever seen a TV show that came on years ago. It was called Weeds. And it was about this woman who her husband dies, and to pay the bills, she becomes a drug dealer. But, as I was saying this, I was thinking about the theme song to Weeds, because the theme song is, I promise you I'm not going to sing it, but is little boxes on the hillside, little boxes made of ticky-tacky, little boxes on the hillside, and they all look just the same. And then like later in the song, it talks about the people who live in the houses. Like there's a doctor, there's a lawyer, there's a business executive. They're all made out of ticky-tacky. They all look just the same. That's how our lives have become. Our lives have become, we're surrounded by a certain group of people. They're in very predictable jobs. We ourselves are in predictable jobs. Our day-to-day is always the same. And there's only the occasional break from the monotony, right? One day, one weekend, you feel wild and crazy and you go to a restaurant that's different than the restaurant that you and your friends or you and your husband normally go to every single week. Or, you get that once a year vacation. And even sometimes that becomes monotonous. I know people who, I love to travel and explore, so this could never be me. But I know people who take the exact same vacation every single year. They go the same place, they do the same things. And I'm just like, how? Because I personally don't understand. But we get into these ruts. So when you meet a person who dares to switch up their schedule, who dares to be passionate about more than one thing and explores different things, and no 2 days with this person are the same, that is insanely attractive. Having that courage to be different, to want different, to explore different, that is different in this society. And believe me, people will take notice. So these are the 3 ways in which you can be more attractive. One is having those standards and boundaries and refusing to settle for anything that doesn't meet that. 2 is learning how to be present and how to have your own things going for you, to not be dependent. You don't want a relationship in which you are codependent with someone. You want a relationship in which you're interdependent. So the 2 of you have your independence, and then you also come together to create better and to create greater. But that it's 2 people who are volunteering and willingly coming together to create better. They're not dependent on the other person. Life wouldn't end if they separated. It's when you're in that space of you and your person not necessarily needing each other, but wanting each other. So that's 2. And number 3 is, embracing variety and embracing keeping that mystery about you, not allowing yourself to become predictable. So I want to know your thoughts on this episode. What was your biggest takeaway? And what is something that you are going to implement in your life in order to be more attractive? You can find me on social media. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Keshia Rice. So feel free to send me a DM, leave me a comment, and let me know what your greatest takeaway was. I love you so much, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Hey there. So you made it all the way to the end of the episode, which means I have two things to say. One, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And two, you like me. You really like me. So I would appreciate it if you would show that like by subscribing to this podcast so that more people can hear about it and enjoy it as much as you do. And if you want to know more about any of the links that I mentioned on this episode or any guests that I've had, be sure to go to KeshiaRice.com/links. That's KeshiaRice.com/links. I can't wait to talk to you again in the next episode. So see you then.